What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back for another review of Tyler Perry Sistas. Y'all, this is Season 7, Episode 2, and the episode is titled Drunk in Love. First things first, this title, it ain't got nothing to do with what happened on the episode. Because only one person was really drunk and acting a fool, but we gonna get there a little bit later. We start this episode off with Penelope walking in on Gary, wanking at his junk. And Penelope, she's like confronting him like, oh my God, you're doing that to Andy's dirty panties. I said, ma'am, don't worry. They not dirty. He got those out the clean drawer, okay? So he is over here trying to tell her like, no, that's not what it looks like and all of this stuff. I'm sorry, but Penelope, why didn't you kick him to the curb? I'm not understanding why you're holding on to Gary. I feel like her energy from last season to this season is totally different, and I'm not a fan of it. Because the fact that lady got so upset last season with Gary to the point where she started comparing dates and times, trying to figure out who he was with, what he was doing. She quickly found out that there was other women in less than 24 hours. Okay? She found out that there were other women involved in the situation and the type of man he was. She figured all that out. You can't tell me that's going to be the same chick right now that's still sitting in this man's face. It's not giving the same type of woman. It's really not. Regardless of if she's having his child or not. So, nonetheless, she goes back out there with Andy, right? And she's trying to save face. And I'm like, what are you trying to save face for? It doesn't even make sense. Like, she goes back out there. She's like, oh, we're going to leave because I don't feel well. Girl, what? Y'all, I'm trying to understand her character, but it's a mess. So then Gary, he ends up coming out or whatever, and he like gives the fake Jordan a handshake or whatever, and I know for sure he didn't wash his hands. Just nasty. So Penelope and Gary, they leave, and we do see Andy and the new Jordan talk about how Gary is supposedly worth a whole bunch of money, right? New Jordan, he's over here trying to get frisky or whatever. I'm not buying it at all. I'm sorry. This actor, he ain't cutting it for me. Now, y'all know I went in on The Last Jordan because I feel like they made his character be very weak. And, like, I hated how whenever he got around Andy, he was always stumbling and fumbling over his words and stuff. But the new Jordan, absolutely not. It ain't working. Because I feel like at least with the older Jordan, when he got back to Andy now, because this is a 3-month time jump, he would be more comfortable with her. You know what I'm saying? This new guy, he just too goofy. I can already see it. I hate the way he be grinning all the time. It ain't working for me. But y'all, let's jump on over to Penelope and Gary. Because baby, they're on the elevator. And he is just giving her all types of excuses, blaming her as to why he was over there getting off to Andy's clean panties. And she's over here questioning, like, why did she take him back? Girl, I want to know that answer because it don't make sense. Then he has the audacity to, like, grip her up. And I'm like, wow, Penelope, you're now getting the Andy treatment because you're dating the true Gary right now. Because before he put on a whole facade, Penelope knew nothing about Gary acting out, grabbing on women. Remember, she got the fairy tale Gary, unlike Andy. Well, baby, the roles have reversed. Now, let's go ahead and move on. Because, I forgot to mention, he basically told her she can stay at his house because he won't be there. And she over here screaming when he walk off the damn elevator. I'm like, girl, that ain't gonna help you. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on. So we jump on over to Sabrina and Danny. Now, Sabrina, she has been trying to convince Danny to try therapy for an hour at this point. Well, here's my thing. Maybe she would actually believe in it if the rest of y'all heifers went to therapy as well. Because let's be honest, each sister can use some therapy, okay? Karen should have been in therapy ever since season 1 when old girl, offed herself in her salon, okay? And when that lady, her brother, I want to say her husband, her brother tried to attack her in her apartment. Karen should have been in therapy since then. Also, she should have been in therapy for when her and Zack were in a relationship. All the way back then. Andy, she definitely could have been in therapy for her constantly going back to Gary unnecessarily. Okay? All that right there was her living in denial and abuse. And she could have gone to therapy. Sabrina, you went to jail. We don't know what you saw in there. We don't know how you were, actually in jail. Because we didn't really get much out of, her time in jail. We didn't get to see her interact with any inmates, nothing like that. But after that experience, you could have gone to therapy. So I feel like each lady has their thing and reasons why they could have gone to therapy. So the fact that you want to sit up here and convince Danny that she needs therapy, yet you ain't got none. Yeah, that sounds a little crazy. It does. It sounds a little crazy to me. But nonetheless, this is where Sabrina lost me. Because Sabrina had the audacity to question if she's having dreams because of Preston. Girl, that don't even correlate. Can we circle back to the Jonah situation? Because Preston never did anything wrong that was that crazy to the point where she would be having, dreams about getting kidnapped. I feel like the situation with Jonah would more so correlate to that situation. I'm not understanding how Sabrina got to Preston. Sabrina, do you not know about what happened with Jonah? I don't understand. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on, y'all. Gary, he done popped up on Hayden, okay? Talk about I got to crash here. You owe me that because I got a private eye. Whoa, buddy. You got the private eye on your own. Hayden did not ask you for that. So, nonetheless, he over here coming through the house, trying to get a drink, talk about what happened to all your good liquor. Now, according to Hayden, Tamara took it, so I'm going to assume that Tamara has left him at this point. They ain't together. We'll see if she circles back in this season, you guys, because I think I might miss that dynamic of Tamara and Hayden. But nonetheless, he actually convinces Hayden to drink with him so he don't drink alone. And Gary, he talks about how he's never getting married. He basically gave Penelope a ring to buy some time. And I'm just like, when did you get that feeling? Because you just last season were like, oh, I like Penelope. I really, really like her. That's who I want to be with. All of that. I guess that all went out the window, right? Okay. So then Gary goes on to say how him and Hayden, they are going to ruin Jordan. And my thing is this. How does Gary have more than 24 hours in a day, y'all? I'm really trying to figure this out. He has a whole career that he has to work on, yet he clearly don't do no work. He has time to keep tabs on Andy, keep tabs on Penelope, keep tabs on whatever other woman that's in his life. You know what I mean? Because they not the only two. Then he has time to stir up mess in Hayden's life. Now he want to, start some drama up with Jordan. Sir, go do a puzzle or something. It seemed like this man has way too much time on his hands. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on. Now, y'all have been watching this show for a while, and you guys notice how whenever they're going to show, one of the girls' apartment buildings or the law office, they'll flash to whatever building it is, and then they will shoot the interior of the shot, right? They'll shoot the interior of the scene. So, whose apartment was that? Whose apartment was that they flashed to for us to then go look at Fatima and Zack? And we all know what the outside of Zack's house looks like. Like, I'm trying to understand what the writers are trying to do. Are we trying to change the setup of where people are living now? What's going on? But nonetheless, we see Zack and Fatima. They sit down to have breakfast, right? And Zack, he mentions how he wants to start a trust fund for Michael and Zack Jr., aka Karen's child. So Fatima, she seems to have an issue with this idea of Zack starting a trust fund for Karen's child, okay? Now, again, we don't know what has happened within these past 3 months, but Fatima is definitely feeling some type of way. And I think it's partially because you have Zack, who is so determined to do all these things for his kids. And I get it. You want to do all these things. However, sir, you still don't have a job. Like, I'm trying to understand, where is his money coming from? Because I feel like Zack has spent his money. Zack has blown through his money at this point. Like, he only had, what, a little over $1 million? He bought the condo. He bought fancy cars. He has completely upgraded his wardrobe. He clearly has had to keep Andy on retainer, and she ain't cheap. Like, I'm just saying, this man has spent a lot of money to not have anything coming in, because he doesn't do the stocks anymore. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like it. And also, he is, like, not working. So the fact that you want to set up a trust fund, that's cute and all, but how much money are you really trying to put in? But back to Fatima, y'all. I feel like she feels some type of way because Zack still doesn't know for sure if Karen's baby is his or not. Because I'm assuming that she just did not trust that initial DNA test situation that Karen had going on, because at the end of the day, the only person who was tested was Aaron. So coming from Fatima and Zack's perspective, we don't know who else Karen has been with. You know what I'm saying? So there's a chance that there could be some third party they don't know about that could possibly be the father. Okay, fine. So she just wants her man to be for sure before he starts taking on all this responsibility of Karen's child that may not be his child. But here's the thing, he's so gung-ho about it, calling this baby Zack Jr. So she basically tells him, like, listen, it's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. And then she reminds him that they have a meeting with Andy. Okay, fine. Now, speaking of Andy, she's in this kitchen, y'all, with Hayden at work. But why did it low-key look like they were in somebody's apartment? Like a tiny apartment with a little kitchen area. But nonetheless, they briefly talk about Andy's dating a new guy. And Hayden, he ends up questioning her like, oh, what's going on with Gary? Because he has a crash at my house. And then he proceeds to give her, you know, some little information about how Gary and Penelope had got into it that previous night. And here's the thing, this is news to Andy because that's not the vibe that she got from them. So Hayden, he's over here gossiping about how he thinks that Gary is into more than just being, you know, over a hedge fund. He thinks that Gary, he's more to all types of stuff because Gary is always conniving and scheming and doing all the most. He's always doing the most. So next thing you know, Fatima, she walks up and Andy, she wants these two to squash their beef, but of course they both refuse. Now, one thing that I will say about that scene is I kind of like the fact that Hayden and Andy were able to kind of join forces a little bit to talk about Gary, because could y'all imagine if Hayden and Andy were to join forces to come against Gary? I'm sorry, but I think that would be good TV. It really would. So hopefully the writers will make that happen this season. But nonetheless, let's move on because we get to Karen and her salon. You know, Pam is there and Pam is looking good yet again, okay? One thing about Pam this season, she's going to look good, okay? So Pam, she's telling Karen that she needs to take it easy. She needs to get off of this step ladder. And next thing you know, there's a delivery guy that comes in. So you already know. Pam is low-key flirting with this guy whose name happened to be Trey. And we see that, Pam, she's getting some deliveries. She says it's some decor for the office or whatever. Talking about how it can be a write-off. And Karen has to tell her, like, that is not how write-offs work. So the delivery guy, he ends up giving his card to Karen. And he was, like, low-key flirting with her. Here's the thing. Karen is beautiful, okay? Beautiful, chocolate, deep, rich skinned woman, okay? Looks amazing. But what we not about to do is have every man attracted to this pregnant woman. We not about to play that game. Also, I kind of hate the way that they have her belly sitting. You know what I'm saying? Because, she's so small. But the way they have her belly sitting and these pants that they keep putting her on, it looks crazy. So that's the one faulty thing about the wardrobe department that I have to point out today is... Actually, I have another thing to point out. But for right now, these pants that y'all keep putting her on, they look crazy. But moving on, Karen, she wants to know, what are these boxes? Like, what is in here for real? Come to find out, it's some type of product that Pam is planning on selling. I guess she's trying to start a hair care line. I said, well, you know what? Come on through, Pam. At least we know you got some dreams and aspirations, okay? But let's go ahead and move on, y'all. We see Sabrina. She is at work in her office and she gets a phone call from Karen. So Karen tells her that she wants to take out a personal loan. And Sabrina is like, well, you just took out a business loan. Now, y'all, how much money did Karen need? Because let's not forget, she just got a loan from Andy last season. Like, ma'am, are you not asking for the right amount of money? What's going on here? But nonetheless, I was so confused as to watching this scene. And you see that Karen is expressing how she's stressed out because she has a baby on the way. She has all this going on with her shop. It's not ready yet. And now she needs more money to make sure that everything's covered. Like, she's expressing to her friend why she needs this loan for Sabrina to just zone out. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, why? How are you in this position? How are you a manager at a bank when you can't even listen to people while they talk to you? I'm sorry, but the more we see Sabrina at the bank, the more I realize she should be fired. Because, like, the way she zoned out, it really didn't bother me. Also, how is it that you work at a bank and you had no financial advice for this girl? None whatsoever. But then you want to go into La La Land worried about having the American dream of a husband and kids in a white picket fence. Sabrina, please come back to earth. Like, make it make sense. And then for her to ask Karen, like, do you ever think about that? Like, having a husband and your kids? Girl, could you please read the room? Like, you see that you are talking to your friend who is pregnant by a man who don't even want her. Okay? Stop playing in your friend face, Sabrina. Please stop. So, she tells Karen that she can stop by on the weekend so they can discuss her finances. No. You need to handle that at the bank. Why is it that you feel comfortable enough to say we can discuss your financial matters at home? No, that's not how that works. Again, Sabrina, you need to get fired. You got to get fired from the bank, okay? Because if you're going to have somebody talk to you about financials, it should be at the bank. Karen needs to come in, okay? Like, I'm sorry. I'm telling y'all, the more they have Sabrina at this bank, the more I want her fired again. Now, here's the thing. Her new boss ends up coming in and basically tells her not to take personal phone calls or whatever. And she can hear everything that was said because, of course, Sabrina's door was open. I'm like, okay, I can already tell this white woman is going to get on our nerves, but I ain't mad at it just yet. Now, let's go ahead and move on. All right, so now we see Andy and Fatima. And basically, Andy is just, catching her up on what happened the previous night, right? So next thing you know, Zack walks in with a full suit on, y'all. Nigga, are you going to court or just talking to Andy? Like, I am so sick of this man playing dress up. He has no job, and he also has nowhere to go in these outfits for real. So let's get into the conversation that was had. And Andy is basically telling the audience what arbitration is because Zack and Fatima should have already discussed all of this with her previously. Nonetheless, Zack now magically has pictures, he has photo evidence, a neighbor witness, and I'm just like, I know you're not trying to bring that lady over here. Leave her in season 6, okay? Nonetheless, he also has hospital records. Oh, how did he get all of this information? From Fatima, of course, because Fatima has to save the day every time you turn around. So Andy, she tells them how they have to keep a cool head when it comes to Heather, and they also need to set their wedding date because it looks better for them to be like a 2-parent household. All right, cool. Now, clearly, this is something that Fatima is ready to talk about. Her setting a wedding date. And honestly, this isn't surprising to me, considering she did not want to wear her engagement ring at first. So her not wanting to set a date, yeah, she has a lot of reservations. All right, y'all, let's move on, though. So we have Danny. She's at her station at the airport, right? And here comes Tony, his big body self. He comes over to her desk talking about borrowing something or whatever. And next thing you know, we don't see him on the screen anymore. She's over here stuttering and all of this. Listen, writers, I know y'all thought that this was going to be real cute. However, his big old head would absolutely need to hike that skirt up all the way because she's wearing a tight pencil skirt. It would have to be hiked up all the way for any of this to be going down the way y'all try to make it seem, okay? Please stop playing with us. Nonetheless, again, they're in the airport, and the way her station is set up, they would have absolutely gotten caught. Absolutely. And then his goofy self talking about I hope we do get caught. Sir, you're a VP. Where's your office? Because why are we doing all of this? Like, I cannot take Tony seriously at all, you guys. So they talk about how, he brought Sabrina into the situation with Danny getting some therapy. She still don't want to go. And then he tells her to meet him in his office in 15 minutes. And I'm like, sir, you could have just said that a couple of minutes ago instead of doing what you just did at her station. Because at the end of the day, like I said, you're a VP with your own office. While she is standing at a little kiosk desk with the public. Do you hear how ridiculous you sound talking about you want to get caught? You have a high-paying job. Who wants to get caught? You know what? Let me just stop. I'm just going to leave Tony where he at. We going to move right on. So he ends up leaving, and Danny calls Karen. So she tries to invite her to brunch, and Karen is like, no, I don't want to come because, I'm going to be the only one who can't drink. Girl, if you need to drink to have a good time with your homegirls, that's a problem. Because I get it, they may be throwing back shots or whatever, drinking mimosas, but you still can go have a good time. So nonetheless, I feel like we're going to see a separation between Karen and the girls. But honestly, I would like to see her hang out with Pam more anyways. Nonetheless, we hop on over to Maurice. He's doing his online OnlyFans type stuff. And Sabrina just walked in the house. Like, that girl, she loves to be breaking and entering, don't she? Like, has she ever used her hand to knock on anybody's door at least? Ring a doorbell? Do something. You don't just walk in people's houses talking about, well, the door was open. No, his door may have been unlocked, but it's not open or an open invitation for you to just walk on in. Then she decided to, like, start judging Maurice for what he's doing in his new career. But, like, ma'am, you came to his house unannounced. Stop judging him. And according to Maurice, he's making a lot of money. So Sabrina, she basically came over for nothing. But she ended up taking a pair of handcuffs, talking about some, oh, Rich might like these. Here's my thing. I understand that y'all are still trying to maintain a friendship between Maurice and Sabrina. But hell, Maurice could have came to brunch if that was the case. If y'all want to keep the friendship going. Let's be for real. Because speaking of this brunch, we about to get to it. We see Andy, Fatima, Danny, and Sabrina. Now, here's the thing. I got to call out the costume department real quick. Y'all had one job. Don't put Danny in a white shirt. Because every time we see her in that work uniform, she's wearing a white shirt. Please don't put her in another white shirt. I'm just saying. Like a button down? No. But nonetheless, Andy, she is talking about Jordan and how he's making her an addict. And girl, you had this same problem with Gary. You were addicted to Gary. You like sleeping with Gary. And that was just that. Now, speaking of Gary, the ladies decide to talk about how big the D is when it comes to him. Of course, what's her name? Danny can verify because she's seen him without clothes on multiple times. I think maybe twice or 3 times, somewhere like that. But here comes Andy. According to her, Jordan is so much better and the ladies are cheering to inches in thickness. Okay, fine. What else is going on? So they switch gears and they're about to start talking about Tony, right? Now, we as the audience, we see Karen walking in. And honestly, from the way they shot it, they made it seem like Fatima saw her walk in. But I don't think she did. Yeah. They just made it seem like, because they shot from the angle of seeing Karen, and then the shot went to Fatima as if she saw her. But I honestly don't think that she did. So, Karen, she spots her homegirls, and she walks right on out because she felt the way that Fatima was there. So, the ladies, we go back to them because she left. The ladies are talking about therapy. And Fatima, she actually suggested her therapist be the person that, what's her name? Danny could possibly meet with. So she's telling her, like, you know, she's cool, she's this, that, another. And that is when Danny decides she's willing to try it. All right, y'all. Now, after we've, you know, gotten Danny on board for therapy, here comes Sabrina with this American dream fairy tale talking about some, do you guys ever dream of having the big wedding and having kids and all of this stuff? Girl, again, read the room. So Fatima, she pipes up and she talks about how, yeah, at one point she did want to have 2 kids of her own. However, that's not the situation that she living in, because the man that she with got 2 kids of his own. And it's not a situation where these kids belong to both of them. Now, y'all, why did Danny say that baby might not be Zach's? I said, now, wait a second. Karen is your homegirl. Why are you doing this? So then Fatima is like, oh, so you don't think that is Zach baby either? Excuse me? Like, I can understand why Fatima may feel that way. But I thought that, you know, Karen had squared everything away when it came to her homegirls about who the child's father is. So now Fatima is saying how she wants Zach to basically get a DNA test, especially considering he's going to ask Karen to name the baby Zack Jr., number one. And she personally feels like she should be the person that's having his junior. Here's the thing. First of all, I don't even like juniors because I think that's lazy. Like, why are you really, like, not giving your child their own identity? But that's a whole other story for another day. Fatima, I understand what you're saying. Like, oh, you thought that you would be the person, considering you are the fiance, you plan on being the wife. You know what I'm saying? That you will be the person that is going to have the kids and all of that, so you get this fairy tale. But, baby, you cannot determine what somebody else is going to name their child. Like, you can make mention to Zack, like, hey, I think that maybe you should hold off on trying to name the baby Zack Jr. because I think that when we have kids, we should name our first child Zack Jr. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be up to Karen to name that baby. And if we want to be completely honest, most of the time, whoever had a baby first, that's who gets that junior title. Whoever had a baby first, that is the person who is able to name their child a junior. Now, this kind of makes me think of how Fatima was supposedly pregnant on the end of the last season of Zatima. And I'm just wondering, are we just going to completely drop that storyline? Because the sucky thing about Sistas and Zatima is that certain parts of the storylines have been intertwined. For example, the drama with Heather has been intertwined on Sistas as well as on Zatima. So the storylines were at the same point. Now, I have no idea what Zatima is going to look like because we have a time jump over here. And on top of that, the storyline for Zatima is totally different than what's going on over here in Sisters Land. Like, I already know it ain't gonna make no sense. Why don't know why I'm asking that question. Moving on. It was crazy to me to see all the little sister group all agree that Zack, he should know for sure if this is his baby before he starts setting up a trust fund for this child, right? And I'm just like, but Karen is y'all bestie. Karen is y'all girl. The fact that y'all are having this conversation with Fatima is crazy. But at the same time, I feel like all of them have been feeling this way for a while. Like, every time when it came to Karen, this is why I don't like the fact that the ladies, they try to sugarcoat things. Because when it comes to Karen, it was always, woo, woo, woo. Karen's pregnant, so we can't have the real conversation. Woo, woo, woo. We can't, call Karen out on her stuff. Only Danny was the one who challenged her about, like, yo, is this his baby? Is this Aaron's baby? Let's figure this out. It's crazy to me that now y'all are all agreeing that, well, there's a chance it might not be Zack's baby. Yeah, but I know for sure y'all wouldn't be saying that if Karen was sitting at this table. Like, be so for real. But y'all, let's just go ahead and move on because we see Danny go home to Tony. And she tries to tell him that, she's willing to try therapy. And next thing you know, they go over to her bed so they can get it popping. Here's my thing. Y'all, I do not want to see Danny in her apartment any longer. We need to see her laid up at his house. Because I know his house is bigger than that tiny apartment. But let's just go ahead and move on. So Sabrina, she is clearly drunk. And she's feeling all on Rich. And she's asking him how many kids he wants. Baby, he wants none. Okay, so it's just going to be you and your wife. Oh, no. Because he don't believe in marriage anymore. He's done that before. Don't believe in it anymore. Personally, y'all, I hate that this conversation happened while she was drunk. Because then this man, he talking about how he don't want to live in a big house. He would rather do a condo. He don't do dogs. He like cats. Y'all, what the hell did these two people talk about for 3 damn months? They've been together for 3 months. What have they been talking about? I really want to know. Because it ain't making no sense to me. Like, honestly, if y'all watched my previous reviews especially on my overall thoughts of season 6, I said how I would have preferred for us to see the actual connection between Rich and Sabrina. Like, why does she like him? You know, can we see him texting her, him, reaching out to her, something, so we can get an understanding and feel of their relationship? Because right now, it's just looking like she is Danny 2.0. He around to sleep with her, and that's about it. Nonetheless, she again is trying to sleep with him, and he wants no parts. So she goes to her bedroom or whatever, and she's telling him to come up in there, but he ends up leaving. Again, I'm not sure about this whole Rich and Sabrina thing. I'm not sold on it. I feel like not enough effort has been put in by the writers to make us feel like they are even in a relationship. I mean, I don't even know what this man does for a living. But nonetheless, let's talk about Andy real quick. So Andy, she gets home. Jordan is there. Again, why can't she go meet him at his house? Like, be so for real. I'm so tired of this. Oh, all the guys will always have to be at these women's house. No. Don't they have a home? We saw Jordan's house. Nonetheless, he talks about how he got an endorsement from the mayor. Y'all, isn't Gary friends with the mayor? So I guess this is Operation Take Down Jordan. It's in full effect. So Andy wants to get it popping. I'm just like, okay, so you mean to tell me that all of these ladies, after they went to brunch, that's the only thing they got on their minds? All right. I guess because they have a few drinks. That's fine. Moving on. Zack and Fatima wasn't nothing popping over there, because when she gets home, she basically, says hey to Zack, and he says that he's going to go to the gym or whatever. So it was crazy to me how she already knew that the only reason why she was invited to this brunch was because Karen didn't want to come, right? And that part kind of stood out to me, because it just made it seem like, of course she's cool with Andy, but she ain't really cool with these other girls like that. But I'm just like, but y'all were so comfortable with each other to have these conversations. It was given that y'all been going to brunch a lot. Not so much that this is like your first time going to brunch with them because Karen wasn't around. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. So Zack, he tries to give her like a kiss or whatever before he left. But Fatima, she's in her feelings about the whole Zack Jr. thing. So she brings up him getting a DNA test, but he's like, no, that's my child. I don't need a DNA test. All of this. Now, it was crazy to me how he was telling her to stop going to brunch with the girls because they are filling her head up with stuff. And I'm just like, but these girls are Karen's girls. Like, these girls are Karen's besties. So I don't think that it would be in their best interest to take Fatima's side over Karen's. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, but I don't like what the writers are doing. I really don't. Like, I don't understand where we're going with these storylines right now. Lastly, you guys, we see Gary. He's on the phone with another woman that he gaming up, talking about he gonna fly them out or whatever. And then here comes some man who works with Gary clearly. And he's like, Gary, the investors are pulling out their money because things were getting sloppy. And I'm just like, yeah, I bet, Gary was dropping the ball, considering his life has been a hot mess for the past, I don't know how long. You know what I'm saying? So this guy, he's like, I've already wiped my computer clean. Gary, I think you should do the same. Gary wants everything shredded. Baby, the FBI is about to be on Gary, right? This is what threw me off, y'all. They said that the FBI went to Hayden's house because we hear that Hayden is calling him, right? Gary picks up the phone and Hayden is like, why is the FBI looking for you at my house? You mean to tell me that the FBI did not think to go to Gary's job first? I mean, honestly, if they are at Hayden's house, then Gary should be trying to cross the border right about now. Or am I tripping? Y'all, we gonna see what's going on with Gary and the hot mess that's about to ensue in his life. But let me know what y'all thought about this episode. I know this review is a bit long, but I had a lot to say, okay? So, yeah, let me know what y'all thought about this episode. Let's just chat about it down below. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to y'all in my next review. Bye, guys.